Hello, welcome to this vlog. The inaugural vlog. The in-vlog-ural vlog. That doesn't really work. Welcome to this channel. My name is Amy. This is a new channel. You may have seen me talk on the internet about books and other places. Welcome to this YouTube channel. I'm so glad you're here. It is day 2 of a long weekend. It is MLK weekend in the United States, and today is Sunday morning. And I am prepping to hunker down and read a bunch of books in the next 48 hours. We're about to get a snowstorm in Connecticut. I think there's maybe like 3 to 6 inches, which doesn't sound like that much, but we haven't had that much snow so far this year. It's already January. So I am really excited about the snowstorm, and I feel like when it snows and the weather gets gross, it is like the best excuse to just like stay inside and read. Like, I don't need an excuse ever, and I honestly do it even when the weather's nice, but it's nice to have the excuse. I have a couple books picked out for the weekend that I'm hoping to read. The first of which I am already 20 pages in, so let me tell you about it. This is Orbital by Samantha Harvey. This is the Booker Prize winner for 2024. I actually have a really good track record. Let me stand side of frame so I can show you the books from the last couple years from the Booker Prize that I've really loved. But I've really loved the last 2 winners of the Booker Prize, the 2023 winner and the 2022 winner. They both made it on my best books of the year list the years that I read them. They are both incredible books, so this bodes well for this new book. I've also heard really good reviews. This is a science fiction story. It follows a group of 6 astronauts that are in space orbiting Earth, and it's all about the different orbits that they take on Earth. I think they travel around Earth 17 times every day, and this is like a 9-month journey. So we are following these 6 people. It seems like it's gonna be really lofty. It's gonna have like a lot of, this is what I think of the world from the perspective of somebody who's looking down on it, kind of lofty language and discussion, but that's kind of the shit that I eat up. It's also really small. I'm already 20 pages in, which is 10% of the book. So we'll see how it goes. I'm also picking up probably is this my most anticipated book of the entire year? Maybe. Not my most anticipated book of 2025, because this book came out in 2024, but I do feel like it was the book that I heard the most about from people. This is James by Percival Everett. This book made it on so many people's best books of the year list. It was just the book on everyone's lips. I feel like all of the book talkers that I trusted and watched put it in their best books of the year list. This is my second Percival Everett. I read The Trees last year, and I also do this thing every year where I focus on an author and I read 12 books by that author, 1 a month for the entire year. And Percival Everett is the author that I'm doing that with this year. So I'm really excited to pick up James. This is supposed to be incredible. It is a retelling of Huckleberry Finn from the perspective of the slave Jim. I think this is gonna be a hit. That's the reading plan for the weekend. I'm planning on reading Orbital today and probably James tomorrow. I think I've read 6 books so far this year. I haven't given any 5 stars, so these could be the first 5 stars of 2025, which would be so exciting. a couple hours later. I've since had lunch and I've now read 60 pages of Orbital by Samantha Harvey. Orbital by Samantha Harvey is the story of a bunch of astronauts that are orbiting Earth on this 9-month space mission. I think I mentioned that in my first pitch of what this book is going to be about. So far, it's been a lot of just kind of musings by the different astronauts as they kind of go about their day-to-day life. They go to the gym, they do their experiments, they do all the things that they're up there to be doing. You hear from one of them who recently lost her mom. Being up in space is giving them perspective on their lives on Earth, and you hear them sort of kind of work through that, talking about the things that they miss about being on Earth. I'm finding it pretty poetic and nice to read. I have a couple quotes bookmarked. Let me see if I can read one. Maybe human civilization is like a single life. We grow out of the royalty of childhood into supreme normality. We find out about our own unspecialness, and in a flush of innocence, we feel quite glad. If we're not special, then we might not be alone. I really like that. I think that's a really beautiful way. A beautiful way of talking about humanity. Yeah, I really, really love that. So there's a lot of lines like that that I'm really enjoying. I'm at Orbit 5. Keep waiting to sink a little bit deeper into the story, and I hope that that happens because I would really like to feel really engrossed in it, and right now I feel like it's kind of surface level a little bit. Maybe I just need to connect more with one specific astronaut. Maybe that's what's missing. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm gonna keep reading. I'm about to take a break to go with my mom to get our nails done. Look at how horrible these nails look right now. Can you even see them? That's what the beauty bloggers do. Oh, it did work. Can chip they are. I need to get this gel off and get a new color on. I will give you another update when I am closer, maybe when I'm past the halfway mark. This is about 30% of the way through the book so far. Hopefully I have more to say at that point. Okay, I'm back from the nail salon. I went with a chrome color. Look how cute these are, guys. I've never done this color before in my entire life. It was so much more expensive than the normal gel manicure. I wish I'd known that before I picked it, but I also don't regret it. It also gave me a great opportunity to introduce my mom to the franchise Xenon, because I think these are very Xenon coded nails. If you don't know who Xenon is, I'll throw up a picture. We'll throw up a picture of Xenon right here. She is the titular character of the movie Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century. She lives in the space station. She's incredible. You should know her. You should love her. I also think it's really apt to talk about Xenon in this vlog because I'm reading Orbital, and Orbital is set in space, and so is Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century. It all comes back together, right? I'll come back and update you when I'm a little bit further along in Orbital. Why bother buying a tripod? Why bother buying a tripod when you can just stack books on top of each other, right? It's finally starting to snow. Can you guys see a little bit of the snow on the ground? Full that we get more of it. Okay, coming at you with my final update about Orbital before I finish it. I'm enjoying this book so far. There are passages that I've really loved. This book is only 206 pages. I just crossed the halfway mark, so I'm at page 113. I'm on page 113. I'm more than halfway through. There are 6 astronauts on this spaceship, and I really only feel super connected to one of them. One of the astronauts, the one that is from Japan, is a woman named Chie, and you hear about her family and her parents back in Japan and her grandparents, and you hear so much about her history and what's going on with her life, and I felt so connected to her. I wanted that with the other 5 astronauts, and I'm just not getting it. They're just not explored quite in the same way. It's making it feel a little unbalanced, and I also just feel there are moments where this book is being told sort of from an omniscient perspective, maybe, where you just feel like you're kind of looking down on Earth and being told things. It's not from the perspective of Nell or Pietro or any of the other astronauts. It's just being told to you. And those are moments where I feel disconnected from what is being talked about. It makes me lose a little bit of interest because I do feel like if those kind of musings and the topics that they're covering in those moments were told through the lens of the personal lives of the astronauts, I would feel more connected to the astronauts as characters and also more connected to topics in this book. So I feel like that's kind of a missed opportunity for me. There are definitely things I'm liking in this. I think there are a lot of really good one-offs and one-liners. I just said I've tabbed a bunch that I want to go back and look at later. I really like the way that the chapters are split into orbits, and the orbits are split into ascending and descending orbits. That's something you'll see a little bit in this first graphic at the beginning of the book. As best as I can tell, an ascending orbit is going towards the North Pole and a descending orbit is going towards the South Pole. As I read, I do feel like I'm sort of ascending at various points in this book to talk about big things, about the universe, about Earth's place in the universe, about what it means to be a civilization that's made it into space, how unspecial humankind must be in a way that means the galaxy and the universe are so much bigger than we can even see right now. And then pretty immediately you'll be dropped sort of back on Earth and you'll be hearing about the border between Pakistan and India and like the islands of the Philippines, and like one of the astronauts took their honeymoon to the Philippines. You'll hear things like that where you kind of feel brought back down to Earth, and it does sort of feel like you're ascending and descending at various points in this book, and I like that it's reflected in the chapter structure. Those are my initial thoughts. I'm really hoping that the second half of this book pulls through and that I really connect with more of the characters so that I can feel really connected to this book. Right now, it's not quite there for me, but I'm not disliking it. I'm not disliking it. I could see why other people really like it. I just need a little bit more. I need a little bit more, and I'm hoping that the second half delivers that. You will probably hear from me again in the morning because I don't think I'm gonna update you again later tonight. It's not even that late. I think it's literally 6:10. It's literally 6:10 p.m. But I don't think I'm gonna give you another update, even though I'm sure I'll finish it tonight, because I think I'd rather just do that in the morning. Cut to Amy in the morning. Cut. I'm sure that was a bad transition, and let me take you to a window that doesn't have atrocious lighting at this time of day. Some final thoughts on Orbital. I liked Orbital. I didn't love Orbital. I thought I was gonna love Orbital and I just didn't, which is a little sad. I think the problems that I talked about in my halfway update are still some of the problems that I was having with this book. I really wanted more of a personal connection to some of the characters, and if I'm gonna be honest, the character of this book, like the main character, is Earth. Like that's the main character. And so you kind of have to go into this book wanting to hear musings about Earth from an omniscient narrator, an omniscient perspective where you like don't know who's talking and it's not very personal. I think that's like something that you need to want to read about in order to enjoy this book. So when I hear people say that they hate it and I hear people say that they love it, I totally get that. Like this is a divisive book. I wanted more from the characters. I do think this is the sort of book that I could get more from on a reread. Like, I think there's a good chance I read it again. It's very short, and I also think there's probably some more nuance that I didn't pick up on in the first read, and maybe like more of, I don't know, maybe I'll understand more of the point. In the back half, a natural disaster that is plaguing Earth becomes kind of more of a plot point, and it does kind of tie you back to what's going on Earth. And you hear a little bit more from the astronauts, not a lot, but a little, and I did find that interesting. I think there were just like full chapters and full passages that were truly, they kind of read like a very beautiful description of that like NASA TV where you're watching the world rotate. Like that's sort of how it felt. In hindsight though, this book is told over the course of a single day. That's how long it takes the astronauts to orbit 16 times. So it does kind of make sense that like sometimes the astronauts are sleeping. I don't know. This book had like 100 more pages, and all of those pages were dedicated towards the backstory of the astronauts. I think I could have really, really loved it. And I think that's what was missing from this book for me right now. Maybe I'll get more from it on a reread. Brings me to the reading material for the day. This is James. This is the copy that I got when I was traveling in New Zealand in the fall. And so I think this is like technically the international UK cover maybe. I think it's really cool. But anyway, this is the reading material for today. I'm going to read James. I'm really excited about it. I hope this is not another 5-star prediction that I am underwhelmed by, but I don't think I will be, because everyone says this is an incredible book. Everyone has put this on the best books of the year list. And my sister's read it, and I trust my sister. I trust my sister wholeheartedly. So I'm gonna get started reading this, and I will come back and check in when I have a reading update. Also, I meant to show you, it snowed last night. Let me get out of frame somewhere, and I will put in some video footage of the snow. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. I love it when it snows, especially when it snows a little bit, so you like can still drive if you need to, but you like can enjoy the like visual of a snow-covered lawn, yard, whatever. I think it's so beautiful. Yeah, I love snow. Finally. Okay, that's the full update for my weekend. Can you believe that's all that happened to me this weekend, is that it snowed? What a fascinating vlog, Amy. Actually, something big did happen this weekend, which is that TikTok was briefly banned. This is the weekend that I'm filming it, is that TikTok got banned. It was such a wild ride. I am primarily on TikTok. That's where I started reviewing books, so I imagine a lot of you watch me on TikTok, if you're watching this now. What a crazy ride to be on. TikTok's back up now. It was down for literally 12 hours, which was so goddamn stupid. What a political power play. It was really just embarrassing for all people on all fronts. Yeah, I think it was a good reminder to diversify the places where you review books. If you review books on the internet, which is what I'm doing now, which is part of the reason why I'm here. Not the only reason I'm here, but part of the reason. Just a really crazy whirlwind of a weekend. Everyone was getting very sad about losing a platform that we really love and that enables free speech. And also me to yap. That's not something you can do on Instagram or any other short form video platform. So I'm grateful that TikTok is back. It's not going to be back in America for very long, I think. I think it'll probably have 60 to 90 days. It'll be so funny in 60 to 90 days if I'm recording a YouTube video. I can like look back and think about like, this is what you were thinking the weekend that TikTok shut down. These men are crazy. Like all of these men that run these companies are so absolutely crazy. The men in government are crazy. Like it's just a mess. Anyway, I don't actually know how YouTube works. Are you allowed to spew information about the government and oligarchs? Is that like kosher, or is YouTube not a safe place for that? Like, are we a little bit more like cozy, fun, escapist vibes? I don't know. I haven't really figured it out yet. I am gonna stick to what I know how to do, reading and reviewing books. So in case this isn't like abundantly clear, I do a ton of tandem reading, which I think is what people call it when you read the physical book and also listen to the audiobook. That is what I'll be doing today. That's what I was doing yesterday with Orbital. I find that it helps my tiny little attention span like latch on to what the book is actually saying, and it also permits me to like look up every once in a while from the book without losing my place. So that's why I do that. I think I'm gonna start with that unless maybe I don't like the audiobook or something. I think I'm in an early reviewer program for a platform called Libro FM, which I really love. It allows you to buy audiobooks and support independent booksellers as opposed to Audible, where if you buy a book, all the money goes to Amazon. And they gave out the audiobook. Can you see that? The audiobook for James when it first came out. So we're gonna be listening to that in tandem with reading this book. Also, I have some cold brew with me. I don't go anywhere without coffee. That is just like hard and fast truth. Anyway, this is Grady's cold brew, which I think I maybe had a clip of earlier in this video that I was pouring. Love this cold brew. It's so incredibly good. Anyway, that's what I'm drinking. So today is Inauguration Day in the United States. That's when we kind of initiate a new president if you're international. And so I have been avoiding television and also family for quite a while. If you don't know this about me, I don't know why you would, because I really haven't talked about it on TikTok at all. I left New York 18 months ago. I was kind of feeling a little fed up with the city. I just needed a break. And I moved in with my parents, and I've been living kind of there, but also kind of traveling around a lot in the last 18 months. And parents are both quite Republican, which is a problem. I am just trying to avoid them today. I think that is like the responsible thing for me and my mental health. So I'm hiding up in my bedroom. We're not watching any TV, obviously. I wouldn't be watching even if they weren't here. I'm gonna get some books that I've been hauling on Pango Books because I'm prepping to move. Like, I'm prepping to leave my parents and move across the country to Chicago, like in the next 2 months, and in order to do that, I need to kind of get rid of a lot of things. And first on that list is books that I don't think I'm gonna read again. It's actually so much more than a single stack. This is stack 1. Can I show you stack 2? This is stack 2. So I'm gonna list them all on Pango Books. I'll probably listen to the audiobook for James while I do it, or maybe like a YouTube video or something. That's the general plan for the next maybe hour. Some of the books that I'm keeping, this is the like least organized way I've ever had a bookshelf in my life. I used to have much better organization when I lived in New York, but that just hasn't been the case for the past 18 months. Anyway, if you're not familiar with Pango Books, it's actually a great platform. I use it all the time. It is a platform where you can list books that you are trying to sell, and they will handle printing of the shipping label and then skim a little bit of the money off the top of the profit and make it really easy for you to just ship that book to whoever is willing to buy it. I've used it a couple times. I used it when I left Brooklyn in order to downsize the books that I had there, which I'm now doing like I'm doing the exact same thing now. But yeah, it's a good way to get rid of some books that maybe you are looking to unhaul, and the money that you make you can either cash out or use as credit on the site, which is what I do, and that's how I buy all of my used books. Anyway, this isn't an ad for them. Not that this is the kind of YouTube channel that has enough viewers for an ad anyway. I've just been using them for a really long time, and I really like them. I think this is probably the best setup we're gonna get in terms of me doing this task and also showing you what I'm doing. First on the list is Animal Dreams by Barbara Kingsolver. I really liked this, and I want to read more of her writing, but I'm gonna unhaul it. We also have Howl's Moving Castle. This is a really great cozy middle grade book. I just don't think I'm gonna read more middle grade in my life. Or like, I'm not gonna reread middle grade, I guess is what I mean. This is a book that my sister gave me, so I should return it to her, but I don't think she's gonna be mad about me selling it because she has too many books. She has too many books. This is Everything for Everyone. It is a dystopian oral history of a New York commune that kind of rises out of the ashes of climate change in New York City. A very interesting and thought-provoking book that is co-authored by a Palestinian author and a trans author, so a lot of interesting diversity within this book. Eve's Hollywood by Eve Babbitt. I'm kind of done with Eve Babbitt. I think I've just sort of hit my mark with how much of the cool girl LA business I can handle. She was a huge Trumper when she was alive, which is fine. I mean, it's absolutely not fine, but like, you can buy her books used if you still want to read them. I don't know, it reads in her writing, like you can tell, sort of. Incomplete Solutions by Wole Talabi is a short story collection from a Nigerian author. This is Afrofuturism, a very interesting subgenre of like speculative and science fiction. I don't know that this short story collection was perfect for me, but I think somebody will be glad to find it because it's not traditionally published. I'm going to be unhauling The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa, which is a very slim and kind of quiet story about a housekeeper and a professor who meet and become friends. Translated from the Japanese and was very good, but I don't think I'll reread it. Similarly translated, This World Does Not Belong to Us by Natalia Garcia Freire? That's not my best pronunciation for sure. This is a really creepy, eerie book about a boy and his estranged father who is dead. It's a really crazy book. If you want to read a book about bugs, this is the book. You can't see it because of the sunlight, but last year I read a ton of Tananarive Due, and I'm gonna be unhauling the stuff that I didn't like, or not didn't like, I liked a lot of it. The stuff that I don't think I'm gonna reread again, including the African Immortal series. This is book 1, it's called My Soul to Keep. In this series, a woman marries this man who she thinks she knows but doesn't actually know that well, and turns out he's an immortal. And there's a lot of drama that happens in that series. It's a 4-book fantasy series. I know somebody's gonna be really happy to find There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job because this is an almost perfect edition. I don't even think I read this. I think I listened to the audiobook. What a cover. Like, what a cover. Can you see that from there? I don't want to bring you into the sunlight, but... And a really interesting book. I think it's better than its Goodreads rating, I should say, but not a book I will probably read again. Unpopular Opinion, Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang was just not for me. A story in this collection that is the basis for the movie Arrival, the one with Amy Adams and I think Jeremy Renner. I liked that story, and there were a couple other ones that I liked, but I just don't think this is like the book for me. I'm gonna try Exhalation, I think. If you've read any more Ted Chiang and you have a recommendation for somebody, let me know what it is. Maybe like a novel. Does he write novels? Maybe a novel. The Borrower by Rebecca Mackay, I'm gonna unhaul. It's an interesting and honestly kind of heartwarming story about a librarian and this kid who hides out in the library because of his family life. It gets a little weird, but it still remains kind of tender and heartwarming. I don't know, it's kind of a confusing one to describe. Confessions by Kane Minato is a Japanese, there's no translator on the front, but I'm pretty sure it's translated, a Japanese mystery thriller about a classroom. I remember thinking it was really good. I don't think I liked it as much as a lot of people do, so I think somebody else will love to have that. Gentleman by James Polkin is the story of a murder in the 1920s right outside of New York City. I think somebody else might like this. I thought it was kind of clunky and not particularly well organized. This murder needed a really good Wikipedia page, and instead it got a 300-page book. That makes sense. Other ones that I'm unhauling that are perfectly good, and honestly maybe I should keep, but I'm being kind of ruthless. Poems by Maya Angelou. This was a great poetry collection, and this was great. She's incredible. Most of her poetry, most of a lot of poetry is available on the internet, so to own a collection, I feel like I really need to want to annotate it, and I'm not sure that's this collection. Book of Common Prayer by Joan Didion I found in a used bookstore. I actually don't know anything about the plot of this, and I've read the White Album by Joan Didion and I didn't love it. I don't know if I'm like gonna continue with her work, or maybe I shouldn't. Like, you know, maybe I'm just not the right reader for her. When I bought this at a used bookstore, there was a receipt inside from the 1970s of somebody who had bought it at the bookstore at the college that my dad was at in the 1970s, and that was really cool. My twin sister and I thought we were gonna do Kane's Jawbone, which is that like mystery book where all of the pages are out of order and you cut them all out and you try and get them all to make sense in by like assembling them in a new order. We never did it, so this is in perfect condition. Somebody else will love that challenge. Service Conditions is a story set in Zimbabwe about a young girl who ends up going to get education because of her brother passing away. She sort of like takes his place. Very interesting, just not one I think I'll revisit. Well, absolutely no comment. Stardust by Neil Gaiman is getting off my shelf right this second. Living Blood by Tananarive Due is the second book in the African Immortal series, so that's the one that follows My Soul to Keep. Blood Colony is the third book in that series. I'm not going to tell you anything about the second or the third because I think it spoils the first book. I never actually read this. This is Days Come and Go by Hemley Boom. It is a book from Cameroon. I would like to read it one day. I just don't think having a hardcover that I'm not sure when I'm gonna read is the vibe that I need right now. On Beauty by Zadie Smith, I bought at a used bookstore in Brooklyn. But this was actually very interesting and I think about quite a bit, but I don't know if I need to own this book. I think it's pretty accessible via the internet, via libraries and stuff like that. Only very thought-provoking. I kind of hated every single character in this book. Like every single character in this book. Oh, unpopular opinion. Bunny was okay. Bunny was okay. Bunny was okay. It was kind of wild, but like, I just didn't care that much. I don't know. This is a near perfect edition. I think I did read this book, but I also listened to the audiobook, so a lot of these pages were never touched. Hopefully somebody loves finding that. 10 Planets by Yuri Herrera is a short story collection I bought in Mexico City last year when I was in Mexico City. When I travel, I try and read books by authors of the nationality that I'm traveling to. If I go to a bookstore while I'm traveling, I try and buy a book from an author of that nationality. It is really short and hard to latch onto and wasn't really for me. I'm interested in some of their other work. I think he has a novel that I'd be interested in seeing. Long Live the Tribe of Fatherless Girls is a really excellent memoir about she has native Hawaiian heritage and she's living in Florida and she has this very complicated family life. It was excellent. Like, this book is actually very, very good. I would highly recommend it. But I ended up buying the audiobook while I was reading this because I wanted to have it. And the audiobook was excellent. And I just don't know if I need the physical and the audio. That book I gave 5 stars, so you should read it. And finally, The Hypocrite by Joe Hamya. This is probably the most gorgeous cover of books published in 2024. It's interesting. I didn't love it, but I would probably give it a reread, but I think I might just do it from the library because I don't think it's super popular, so I think it'll be very accessible. Those are the books that I am going to unhaul. Those are the books that I'm putting on Pango Books. I'll link that somewhere on YouTube in case you want to go buy any of those books. Now it's time to take photos and do all of the listing on Pango Books. 30 minutes. All of those books are listed now. Again, this is the stack in case there's anything here that you have been desperately looking for. In an update that's probably surprising to nobody, I'm really loving James by Percival Everett. I knew I was gonna like this book. I'm just pleasantly surprised. I love Percival Everett's writing. I think he's such a sharp writer. I'm sure I've mentioned this before in this vlog already, but this is a retelling of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn from the perspective of Jim, who's the slave that goes down the Mississippi River with Huck Finn. I love James' character in this book, Jim. I think he is just so interesting, endlessly interesting. A lot of this book follows him in his community with other slaves that are living in and around his master's house, this woman, Miss Watson. A lot of what you follow these characters for is sort of like how they navigate performing being a slave to the white people around them. Jim will be having a conversation with his friend and they'll be talking in very perfect English and perfect vernacular, and then a white person will enter the vicinity and suddenly they completely code switch. They're performing how a slave would talk so that the white people around them are more comfortable so that they are safer. There's one scene early in this book where he's teaching young kids how to talk and behave, and he sort of explains the logic behind why they think it's important to talk this way, but how they can suggest ideas to their masters and to the white people around them in order to make the white people think it was their idea from the beginning. So smart and interesting. It's kind of gut-wrenching because you are in the South and they are slaves, and it is during this time period. One of the men that Jim knows or knows of is burned alive early in this book. There's just a lot of very sad things happening. This book sort of kicks off when Jim, finds out that he is going to be sold to a slave owner down in New Orleans and be separated from his family. And Huck Finn decides that he wants to fake his own death to get away from his abusive father. They end up together, leaving and going to stay on this island in the middle of the Mississippi River called Jackson Island while they make a plan for how they're going to escape their various situations. They were briefly separated in the first third of this book. They're now back together, and I've just been enjoying watching the two of them interact. They have such an interesting relationship because to a certain degree, Jim is trying to look out for Huck. That's part of the reason why he is on this adventure, is that he cares about Huck and he doesn't want Huck to be in danger. But he also still performs being a slave around Huck because he knows it's not safe, because he knows you cannot trust white people no matter what age they are. I really appreciate this retelling. I really appreciate seeing that source material and being there is a story here that we're not hearing and that we're not telling, and then rewriting it in this way. I'm loving it so far. I would be shocked if this isn't 5 stars by the end of the book. Because I've never read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, I actually don't know where the plot is going. They are very much at the behest of the flow of the Mississippi River and moving south a little bit. It seems like there are a couple other places that they might, St. Louis and Memphis and a couple other farms that are further along on the Mississippi River that it seems might be places that they stop on their journey. Something I really love about Percival Everett as a writer, this is the second book I've read of his, he doesn't mince words. He is just gonna tell it to you straight. He is so direct in the way that he tells stories. He's not afraid of dialogue, which I like. I think a lot of writers that want to be taken more seriously don't heavily use dialogue. I feel like there's an idea that if their characters are speaking too much, they're saying things that could be shown or something like that. Percival Everett is not like that. He uses a lot of dialogue. The chapters are really short, which sort of makes this book fly. Can't wait to see where this story goes. So that's the update about James. At the 33% mark, I just hit page 100. There's a chance I finish it today. I'm hoping I finish it today. I have a lot of other things to do, but I'm finding that my attention is all over the place. So we'll see. I think this is only gonna mean something to people who are in the Northeast, but my family brought me back a Donut Delight iced coffee. So good. It's so good. This is a medium iced coffee with cream and sugar. I don't even know what time it is, but it's too late to be drinking this much coffee, but we're doing it anyway. Okay, let me give you one more update for James before the end of the night. I just hit the 50% mark. I'm actually a little bit ahead of the 50% mark, and there have been some developments. I'm not gonna spoil anything about this plot, although I do wonder if you've read the source material, if the plot is already spoiled, if that inherently spoils the plot. I'm not gonna tell you where they're at right now, but there's been some developments for Jim, and he's in kind of a sticky situation. It'll be interesting to see how he gets himself out of this one. A lot of this book has come down to Jim being incredibly smart. He does a lot of kind of self-preservation, which is so impressive to see. I'm really liking this. There was one scene in this book where Jim is having this dream where he is in conversation with the philosopher John Locke. He reads a lot and he has books with him on these travels, but I don't think I realized he was like well-read enough to be in conversation with John Locke in his dream. But it's so funny because he's having this like kind of dream moment where he's talking to John Locke, this famous philosopher who had all these contradictory ideas about slavery, and he's talking to him about his ideas about slavery, and then he wakes up from the dream and he's with Huck again, and he immediately shifts into the vernacular that he has been using as a slave. It was this moment where I was like, oh my god, Percival Everett is so smart. The way that he is crafting this character, I'm loving this book. I could not imagine not loving the ending. I think I have like 135 pages left. Very low likelihood that I finish that tonight because it's already, I'm not wearing a watch. It's already a little bit past 8 p.m. I'll probably read maybe another 50 pages and then finish it up tomorrow, and I will let you know what I think. I know this was supposed to be a weekend vlog, but I'm really enjoying it and I don't really want to rush because I think this is a really special book. And it's so rare, I feel like, these days where I like pick up a book where I'm just certain it's gonna be special and I'm gonna love it and it's gonna be 5 stars. And that's kind of how I felt every second of reading this book. Probably hear from me tomorrow with final thoughts because I don't think I can give you another update further along in the book. What's interesting is that, so I'm in the middle of part 1, which is 160, I'm 160 pages in, so part 1 is more than 160 pages. I saw part 3 at the back of the book and I was like, am I already in part 2? But no, part 2 hasn't even happened. I don't know if that's gonna take the story in a different direction, if it's gonna be a different leg of their journey, if they're gonna be new characters involved. I don't really know what those parts are gonna be like, but I'm interested to find out. I will give you a full update when I finish this tomorrow. But yeah, love, love. One more update of the vlog to say that I put on some eye masks. These are these like hyaluronic under eye patches that my mom gave me for Christmas, actually. I have pivoted from reading to watching Virgin River. I'm watching Virgin River right now. The absolute most bonkers show in the entire world. It makes absolutely no sense. Insane. And with every season, it gets a little bit crazier. Like, it gets a little bit crazier, it gets a little bit more off the wall. I am almost caught up to present. I am midway through season 6. I am gonna be honest, I've been skimming a lot. I've not been watching full episodes because there are whole characters that I don't care about. Whole characters that I don't care about. I also made some peppermint tea, which I love. And I'm just gonna decompress for work tomorrow. If I catch up, how many episodes do I have? I think I have probably too many episodes, even skimming them, to catch up in time to read more of James tonight. But I might before bed, because it's like good to not be looking at your screen right before bed. Says doctors. I've never in my life followed that advice, but whatever. Coming at you 36 hours later to say that I just finished James. Well, I didn't just finish it. I finished it last night and now it's the next morning. It was nice to sit on it for 24 hours. It got to the point while I was reading this where I just like didn't want to rush finishing it. I was really enjoying it and I knew it was very special, and I just knew that the level of skill he's exhibiting with this book is just not something I'm going to find very frequently this year. I wanted to linger with it. What an excellent book. I pretty much stand by everything that I said in past updates. I think this is just like an exceptional retelling of the source material. I really love the relationship between Huck and Jim. It's not even that I love this relationship because I think it is lovable. I kind of loved how complicated it was between the two of them. I really love what Percival Everett is doing with language in this book. I think outstanding. The way that Jim code switches his language and his dialect based on the communities that he's in, like the places that he's in. The quickness that Jim has to have in order to survive this book is kind of reflected in just the quick pace of the book. I feel like the dialogue keeps it moving really fast. There's very quick chapters, and he really does have to be on his toes constantly because of the people around him and the society of the times. And I really loved the way that Percival Everett wrote this story so that James could recapture that narrative, and he does an excellent job with it. By the end of this book, you are going to feel the power of James as a character, not just in his like smartness or his intelligence, but also because of what he decides he wants his life to be and kind of the power of claiming that. I really love this book. I think everyone who recommends it to you is telling the truth. One of those rare books that I pick up that has been so hyped before I pick it up that actually lives up to the hype that I have heard about it. I think a lot of people talk about this book as kind of his like magnum opus, his like big achievement, but I also see a lot of kind of like the quintessential Percival Everett style of writing where there's just like this quick dialogue, this kind of sharp satirical humor, quick chapters, fast pace of plot. So I feel like he's really building building on what he knows how to do really well, and it makes me really excited to read 11 more of his books this year. Here are the 2 books that I read in this reading vlog. Orbital by Samantha Harvey I thought was good, if not great. It felt a little sterile at times. It felt a little removed. I really wanted more character relationships and I wanted character exposition. I wanted to feel who the characters were as people and enter the story that way, and there just wasn't that much of it in the book, perhaps because of its size, maybe because of the artistic choices the author was making. Hard to say. I could see why other people like it though, so I don't know. This is the kind of book that I would recommend to you if you want a short book that like could go either way. It'll divide people, so like if you're up for the challenge, give it a shot. And James, which was excellent, and I think is probably going to be one of the best books that I read this year. Certainly the smartest book that I read this year, and the book that I think is maybe like the most successful at what it's doing. I do think that just from a success standpoint, he absolutely smashed this out of the park. Props to Percival Everett for being the smartest person in the room. Those are the 2 books that I read in this vlog. Have you read any of them? What are you reading now? You can let me know downstairs. Also, I'm pretty new to this YouTube thing and very new to this signing off a YouTube video. If you liked what you saw, you can do all the things that people tell you to do. You can subscribe, you can comment, you can like. I've heard that it helps engagement. I'll be back with another video. I don't know what it'll be. I haven't started filming it. I haven't even thought of what it's going to be, but it'll be something else. I hope you're having an excellent day.